I'm going to pick it. I'm going to make a bet that this will be the third highest grade resource of any geometry and size in the world after Mountain Pass and Mount Weld. This is on track to being a world-class asset.
This is general advice and my opinions only. This episode's company has paid me for this interview. I may be long, short, or hold an interest in stocks or CFDs mentioned. Past performance isn't reliable. The interviewee's views are their own, not necessarily mine. LEVRD operates as a corporate authorised representative 00131 8377 under AFSL 548573. You can find our financial services guide via the LEVRD website, link in the show notes.
Righto, bag holders and stop loss owners. We've got to do it every bloody commodity this week. We're on rare earths now, and brought to you by Mining Select, the go-to bloody mining recruitment service in Australia for Aussies and Kiwis only. Go check it out, link in the show notes. Today we are heading to Brazil, and Al, I'm going to nail all these pronunciations because it's my second time. We're heading to Minas Gerais, the Morro de Ferro Project for Power Minerals, ticker PNN. Mates, welcome, Alistair Stephens, top dog. Welcome back.
Thanks, mate.
Mate, before we get now, just a bit of we're going to dangle the carrot here. We've got some intercepts to talk about that are, they're impressive. They're impressive. First up, mate, rehash, the project, for the listeners that don't know about you, where you are, where you've picked it up, and what are you chasing?
Righto, the project's called Morro de Ferro. It's in the state of Brazil called Minas Gerais, down near the south in what's called the Caldera alkaline complex, where all these ionic clay resources are, like meteoric and viridis. And this project is not clay. It's a hard rock resource sitting right in the middle, in the guts of this old caldera. It's a primary mineralisation, so it's the primary host. It may well be the host that shedded all this mineralisation into the whole complex with ionic clays. 15 kilometres out of a town called Poços, and we picked it up in 26th of April this year. We completed the acquisition of the project, and in June we got the drill rig on site, started drilling in July. We've got a second drill rig on site, so we're going to increase our productivity. So expect a bunch more of assays and results to come between now and the end of the year.
I'll tell you, listeners, what type of deposit it is. It is a bastnasite. It is not a monazite. It is not a clay. It's a bastnasite. Oh, mate. Tell you what, I remember everything. You should be proud of me, Al.
I'm very, very proud of you.
Mate, and what come with it? So this is the maiden drill program for power, but I got it on screen here and and this is what we discussed last time. So what you're dealing with, you had sort of couple of historic results that you had you're looking to validate now. Effectively, 2 metres at 8.6% TREO. And, another 2 metres at 14% TREO, and this is at, about 20 metres below the surface. And I guess, and the NdPr percentages, we're talking in the threes for these holes. So comparably, mate, let's hash what Mount Weld, like Mountain Pass and Mount Weld are the big dogs in the world. You rattle off their resource grade, more importantly, their reserve grade. What are they actually mining? What are the big numbers in the world? Because they're the two flagships in the hard rock that everyone compares to.
Yeah, so their resource grades are around about 4.5% TREO. Their reserves grades, I'll stand corrected, but I think Mountain Pass is 8% and Mount Weld is 6%, something to that effect. I think there might be some stock of 8% material sitting at Mount Weld as well. So, pretty high-grade materials. But the conversion, I guess, is that your larger resource on average is lower grade. Then you pick the eyes out of it into reserve, which is the high-grade material.
Yeah. And so explain to me, because that's the opposite of, say, a gold mine, where the reserve grade is higher than the resource grade. Usually it's the other way around. Is that because they're can selectively mine higher grade pockets for this? How does that work?
Yeah, same goes with gold. Your average resource grade might be, a number, but your reserve grade is typically higher. because you're going for cash flow up front. So this is all about making money. So we talk about numbers of resource to reserves. A resource is an inventory. The reserve is what's the basis of your cash flow going through a plant and the outcomes of profitability. So that's why you pick the eyes out of this stuff and bring in the high-grade material up front and defer all your low-grade material down to the back end of the plant.
I think I'm probably more thinking of underground when it gets diluted. Usually the resource goes down. But okay, so this is because these deposits are so big. The resource grade is obviously a lot lower, but there's so many high-grade pockets that you can target early to get a high reserve grade.
So you're right, Dad. The geometry of gold is typically, sometimes narrow, high-grade mineralisation. When you mine it, you have to mine some stuff around the outside that gets diluted in so the grade goes down. That's right. These things, the rare earth projects, are much larger geometrically. So this thing looks to be about 50 to maybe 100 metres wide by 300 or 400 metres long. So once you're in the guts of this thing, you go very little dilution. You're in averaging country. So the chances of dilution around narrow vein material is substantially reduced with these types of deposit, especially this one we're dealing at Morro de Ferro. It's quite bulky in geometry.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got 4,000 metre program, 7 mil in the bank. I'll bring up the first hole. Lucky first hole. Here we are, 116 from surface, 116 metres at 4.78% TREO. And so with pockets within that, 5.1 metres at 14.64%, 31 at 10, 78 at 6.85. And then obviously, the magnetic rare earth oxide numbers associated with that are in the, 2.25, bit over 1.5. So, mate, how your expectations for these first holes compared to what you've got? Talk to me about that.
I've been in this game now 22 years. So I kicked off all that stuff with Arafura and Nolan's project. The last one was Lindian's Kangankundi project, and I've seen a lot of other projects in my 22 years which are pretty ordinary. This is by far the most spectacular in my dealings with all the other resources. So it is comparable in terms of its grade and its value to Mount Weld and Mountain Pass. And I'm comparing drill results now to an average of resources and reserves. And I know there's a long way to go between that and the final outcome. But to get an intersection like this is astounding. 116 at 4.8%. What's really important about all these grades is not just the TREO, but the fact that they've got percentages of magnetic rare earth oxide grades of, 1 to 2.5. There's a 3.6% MREO grade. People talk about the ratio. So they've got really low-grade resources, but they say, I've got a ratio of 30% NdPr in it. It's still quite low. The absolute value of this is astounding. So you convert 2.25%, right, is basically 22.5 kilos of MERO in resource before recovery. That means that's the type of revenue you're looking at. The contained in situ value now is, if it's $100 a kilo, is something like $2,500 per ton by the time you stick it in the back of a truck.
Because that's what you say. You're like, situation is that you might be separating and just shipping off magnetic rare earth oxide, and that's it.
Oh, we will be processing it, that's for sure. But even if you got 60, 70% recovery, you're still looking at astounding values of material in feed. I'm going to pick it. I'm going to make a bet that this will be the third highest grade resource of any geometry and size in the world after Mountain Pass and Mount Weld. This is on track to being a world-class asset.
Yeah. So, and were you surprised about the length, like the 116 metres to be? I know there's pockets of mineralised. I haven't done like a drill hole interval calculator. I assume there's possibly some barren parts in between it. But were you thinking you'd get that thick of a deposit, that thick of an intercept?
Well, I think yes and no. There is an intercept there of 6 metres, which has got no rare earths in it or very little rare earths, and it's a magnetite dike. That the iron grade in that is going something greater than 75%. So we know it's not actually a break in the mineralisation. It's something that's dissected it later in life by a big magnetite vein. The whole 116 metres, well, we wanted to find a termination at some point. So we got the geometry right. And so it was kind of good that we've got a boundary there. Interesting enough, the interval below 116 metres to end of hole is still going on average something like 0.3% rare earths. So it's telling us that there's another geological story behind that, as it's probably a halo or a fracture zone sitting around the high-grade core. So it's all building into our understanding of the geometry and nature of this thing, so that when we get to doing a resource and doing our mine plans, we kind of understand what this sucker looks like. But, this core of this thing, so high-grade. It's absolutely astounding. So were we surprised of the tenor of it? Okay, yes and no. Yes, it's kind of consistent with the other grades we've seen historically, 60 to 80 metres at 7 to 9%. We've got 116 at 4.8, in that 31 metres at 10%. It's kind of saying this is consistent with a consistent geometry of mineralisation. So it means that we can actually have confidence that old drilling can be pulled into the resource. So that's pretty important for us. Because it's validating that historic material is reliable, and also builds into the whole inventory of the project. So this is a cracker.
Yeah, and looking at like the old data and like this hole you've just done, which I will remind myself, 116 metre hole. Is this? It's not have you got an idea of what the ore body looks like in 3D? This isn't like a director's special just straight through a vein. Is it a big, very wide spanning sort of system that this is, there is lateral repeats of these potentially?
Yeah, correct. So it appears at this point it's probably up to 100 metres wide, maybe 500 metres long in what we think might be this high-grade core. Now we're saying there's probably a halo around this, and it certainly goes down to 50 to 100 metres. Not sure what happens below that. It's going to have to, because these things, the geometry of these things means that there's going to be some depth extension. I just don't know where that is at the moment. And in some respects, don't really need to. If we got a resource out of this of 20, 30, 40 million tonnes, that's all we need. We don't need to go chasing deep stuff.
Yeah, and so because how like when you're talking 30, 40 million tonne, we won't wrap grades around it or anything, but like what is the scale of Mount Weld and Mountain Pass? Like how big are tonnage operations are these? I know I'm bloody asking a lot of things on the fly here with your knowledge of resources, but how does 30, 40 million tonne compared to them? Is this more of a boutique sort of high grade operation potentially?
But no, it's on track to being sort of similar. The reserve grade of Mountain Pass is about 20 million tonnes. I'll stand corrected. I know the resource of Mount Weld is about 106 million tonnes, so 4.5% something.
Yep.
And then their reserve is, I think it's 30 million at 6% or something to that effect. And I'm sorry, Linus, if I've got those numbers incorrect.
That's all right. You don't work for them. You'll be right. So, mate, globally, I know there's a lot of rare earth explorers. I'm just trying to not be too fluffy on this, but when you're looking at numbers like this, it's hard not to be. Is there anything else in sort of the exploration developer space that are getting sort of close to these grades around the world that you honestly know of?
Look, the one that's probably close to it is Nagala in Tanzania, which has got about 4.5% grade, but their conversion ratio between reserves to resources is particularly low. On average, it's a 2% resource, and they've plucked the eyes out of it to get get a high grade thing. So it's only got about an 8% conversion rate between reserves to resources, which is particularly low. There's something behind that. But now that's a private company. It's owned by the Chinese. They're going to do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
In terms of listed companies around the world, this is by far the standout. This is it.
Yeah.
This is number 3 globally outside. So I'll put Mountain Pass as highest in grade. I'll put Mount Weld highest in value. So this thing, I think, will go second highest in value, maybe third in grade.
Yeah, interesting.
And when you're talking money, I don't care about the grade. I'm talking about value.
And by value, you're talking about the value of the MREO coming out of it, not the grade, not the TREO grade. It's the revenue you're going to get and the recovery for what's coming out the back end. Is that right?
Spot on. So if you look at Mountain Pass, 8% head grade, but 0.15% NdPr ratio. So what's that? You're looking at about 0.8% of value in your outcome. Here we've got 0.8% MREO in that whole 116 metres at 4.8, but we've got a higher grade pockets of double, 3 times that value. So NdPr drives the value of rare earth projects.
Yeah. So is the MREO, just to refresh, mate, is MREO, is that NdPr and DyTb as well?
Correct.
The heavies? Yeah, it's all 4 of them. Yeah. Gotcha.
And if you look at the TBDY ratios of this, they're about an order of magnitude higher than most other projects. They're equivalent to what Mount Weld, Linus have. These are really high, like 50 ppm terbium and up to 350 ppm dysprosium. These are really high grades. They're strategically important. This project, will be highly sought after because of its product value.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. So your second drill rig coming up, how many you've sent 2 holes to the lab. This is the first one to come back. How many holes are you punching in with 2 rigs, and how quickly is that going to get done for this first program?
I think we've got 2 holes coming up next in the lab. Wouldn't expect them this week, probably the week after, week after next rather. We're getting around about 50 to 60 metres a day with 1 rig. So with the second rig up there, we'll be getting up around the 120 mark. So our productivity will go up, news flow will start increasing, and when we're chasing a mineral resource estimate, hopefully by the end of this quarter this year, I'm running out a bit of time, might sort of flow over into early next year. And I'm not particularly worried at this point in time because I think the grade and the value is going to be so good. Take an extra month, get a good result out of the market. Don't worry about, necessarily getting something out by November or December. Make sure it makes an impact rather than sets a timeline. Yeah.
Yeah. And 7 mil in the bank, as per the sort of when the maiden drilling program start, that's going to be plenty to see you through, I assume.
Yeah, this program will cost us probably somewhere between 2 and 3 mil. So we've got plenty of money in the bank to carry on from there.
Yeah. Very good, mate. Anything else you wanted to get out there?
Well, here's the surprise. And I don't necessarily understand it. There's quite elevated, quite high grades of gallium in the bottom of the hole. In fact, some of the grades of gallium up in the top of the hole were being interfered with some other chemistry. So we're getting them reassayed. They came back not relevant or not geochemically correct. So the lab's taken it back to actually reassay them, probably because they're over in grade. So there's a story here which I don't quite understand why gallium's that elevated. It's a surprise. It's a kicker, and there may be a story that evolves out of this as well. But we're focused now on making sure we get these rare earth grades into the market, because these are wonderful. These are the best I've ever seen in my career.
Very good, mate. And after a couple of decades in the industry, good to see yous are the blokes that deserve a bit of luck, I reckon. So good on you.
Thank you.
Thanks, beauty, mate. Thanks, Ape, for coming on LEVRD again. And you keep drilling and you keep coming back on.
Too easy.
Thanks, Al. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Matt.